Welcome back, everybody. I'm Sean LaFlock. I'm here with Scott Hagness. This is the Fitness, Wellness, and Longevity Podcast. Scott, how goes it, brother?
Hey, go pretty good.
Awesome, man. You scarfing down a few little morsels there, Scott?
I am, yes.
What's on the menu today there?
Post-training meal. It's basically oatmeal, walnuts, a little bit of protein powder because I didn't have a whole lot of other protein. Turmeric. Collagen powder.
Oh, I was going to ask what kind of protein powder, collagen powder. Nice. So while you're finishing up your last little scraps there, Scott, I will lead us into the intro for this episode. We had the second week of the Open come and gone, which is great. And we've had some pretty ridiculous performances relative to what we've seen in the past. And the workout was a repeat of 16.2, which was the unlock ladder, where you start off with one weight. You do 25 toes to bar, 50 double unders, and then 15 reps at 135/85. And then then 25 toes to bar, 50 double unders, 13 reps at 185, 115. And those weights progressively got bigger. The double unders and toes to bar remained the same. And the weights obviously got heavier, capping out at 315 for the gentlemen and 205 for the ladies. So, Scott, we've seen this workout before. What are your first thoughts or first impressions of this workout?
Definitely interesting test and interesting to see the improvement in, what is that, 3 years?
Yes.
Yeah. I remember when that one first came out.
It was Rich and Matt Fraser went head to head. And it wasn't.
No, I don't think it was.
Was it Vellner? In 2000?
It might have been Vellner. Was it a small place where they did the Open announcement, I want to say, or it seemed like it was.
Open announcement. I'll look that up in a second. But while I'm looking that up, Scott, what? Oh yeah, it was. Oh, I know. It was Bjorn Carl Goodmanson and Dan Bailey, I believe.
Right.
And
yep.
BGK finished it.
Yes, which that was super surprising at the time.
Everybody's like, no way that anybody's going to finish this ladder, and they were like, oh my god, he just finished it. So obviously fairly impressive. And it wasn't like they had like any time to plan for this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
right.
BGK finished it in what looks like
just under the cap, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just under the cap. So I'm looking at Dan Bailey. Oh wait, is Dan Bailey here? Maybe they both finished it. Dan Bailey finished it at 1950.
If I remember correctly, is that the score from that first day they redid it?
They definitely finished it. But in the live announcement, BJK was 2 reps shy of finishing it, and Dan Bailey finished it in 1950. So I'm looking at the video now.
Okay. Yeah.
Which again, at the time of doing this, when that workout came out, we're like, this is an impossible workout. There's no way anybody's going to finish this, because when you look at it on paper, there's how many toes to bar? What is that? 100 and so it's 4 rounds, 5 rounds. 125 toes to bar, rounds. 250 double unders, and then a whole lot of squat cleans that end up at 315 pounds. And 315 pound clean at the time of this announcement was fairly like good. You know what I mean? Like you were competitive if you hit a 315 clean. So to put this in a workout after all that work, people were just like, this is crazy. So now that we know what we know, Scott, when this came out the next time, how do you think about it now?
Oh, well, at least we have something to go off of, on how to, and performances, and hopefully, the competitors at this level have done this sort of thing fairly regularly, CP battery work or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
Under high fatigue, and obviously, given some of the scores, people have been doing things like this, and then looking at just what the numbers for maxes are amongst the elite competitors nowadays, then 315 isn't quite so daunting,
Yes.
at the end of the day.
Yes. I was actually looking at, so here's actually a pretty cool example or case study is, so Myra, obviously I coached her for the last like 3 or 4 years. We've actually, she's working with Kyle Ruth now, but when she originally did this workout, she did it twice in 2016. It was unable to get out of the round of, she was unable to get out of the round of 175. She came like 1 or 2 reps short each time. Then she repeated it in the qualifiers for 2017 qualifier for the Masters. And she actually finished 4 cleans at 205. So huge improvement, obviously. Yeah. She had bilateral knee surgery at the end of last year. So both meniscal repairs. And she attempted it the other day, came up 3 reps shy of finishing the round, redid it, and then unlocked the 175 and got into the round at 205. So she's better than she was when she was in 2016, but she still isn't where she was in 2017 when she was able to get 4 reps at 205. And this is coming off of bilateral knee surgery less than 6 months ago. So actually less than like 4 months ago. So it's a pretty impressive comeback thus far, but it goes to show that the level of the game is improving exponentially over years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just as you think it, isn't going to go any higher, the level keeps going up.
Yep. So, what are your thoughts on why that is that the level of the game has been improving and increasing over time, Scott?
I think training knowledge has been growing, every year by kind of leaps and bounds.
Mm-hmm,
I mean, it was really a very open field, originally people just did WODs and maybe a little extra lifting, and then it became a little bit more structured.
Mm-hmm.
But we even see a lot of the early ideas that we all had kind of have been discarded now, and where you were barking up the wrong tree in some cases,
yep.
or our methods weren't really yielding what we needed. So there's just so much more better training programs and coaching at the elite level, I think is certainly one of the reasons. And the top competitors, again, as we've talked about many times in the past, I mean, they are actually professional athletes, generally sponsorship and such, that they can focus entirely on training, or at least more than, someone with a 50-hour week job trying to spackle in high-level training as well. And the more people that do it, too, is always the larger genetic pool for, you're more likely to get some exceptional individuals somewhere in there.
Maybe there's also like the Roger Bannister effect.
Oh, I meant to mention that. Yeah, that was the one I had in my mind too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I see that in so many sports and so many things where there's once it's been done, it's a different mentality kind of across the board.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we can do that. You see it, totally. You see it in all levels of CrossFit, but you see it. I see it in the biking world all the time too. Like one thing that one guy could do, suddenly now like everybody does as sort of a beginning trick, like it's just considered normal, because once you see it done enough by enough people, our brain doesn't perceive the same limitations for it, even though we may recognize those are talented athletes at whatever they're doing. It's doable if you see a lot of people do it.
Yeah, so I think that kind of leads us to understand that most of what we think we can do is based upon kind of what our brain can perceive as possible. And when we start to free up space for basically infinite possibilities, we could be those trailblazers. Because here's the cool thing about Roger Bannister was that no one ran a sub 4 mile prior to Roger Bannister. So it's like, how is it possible that Roger Bannister could run a 4-minute mile? It's never been done before. So there has to be access to what I call as the infinite, like infinite possibility. And when you are actually accessing that infinite, like that's where magical stuff can actually happen. Now, on the doable side, we have things that have been done before, and that allows us access to things that have been done before. So if, say, in the case of CrossFit, you see people saying, oh, wow, there have been people who have actually finished this workout, it gives you confidence to know that, okay, it's actually attainable. Like, this isn't a crazy idea. But realistically, the things that are like that is something that is never going to blow anybody's hair back. Maybe if you beat the previous time, that's, I guess, admirable, and it's quite an achievement. But realistically, it's the first person that does it that gets that huge achievement or gets that feather in their cap, because there is no reason logically that this person, or like on paper, let's say, that this person should be able to do this. It's never been done before. But when someone actually does it, you're actually pulling something magical out of the air because it actually is new.
Mm-hmm.
Something to consider.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wonder if, that first day when this came out, if it was perceived as, what was the mentality going in with those two athletes? Did they actually think, oh yeah, I think I could do this, or like,
I obviously this is a CrossFit workout, and I think, HQ probably tests these ahead of time. They're like, all right, they want people to be able to do this. So there's probably some implicit knowledge going in that's like, okay, this is probably doable. But I guarantee Dan Bailey he looked surprised when he finished. He was like, damn, I can't believe I did it. And here's the funny thing. That was 1950 in 2016. Rich Froning just went sub 16 on that workout. Which is crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that is so scary.
You didn't even need the final time round.
Yeah, it was sub 16. He finished it at the 15:58 mark, I believe. And so that's a full, 2 minutes and 50 seconds faster than what Dan Bailey. 3 minutes and 50 seconds faster than what Dan Bailey did. That's insane.
Wow. Yeah, that is incredible.
So on the women's side,
not losing any
steam in these later years here, which as I'm watching the workout and watching him do it, I'm like, man, I wish he would go individual and take on Fraser. I would really like to see that, because, obviously we're going to see better and better performances when you have better and better competition. So I don't know, something to consider.
Yeah.
But so definitely
the women's scores.
Definitely a really cool workout, and obviously the women are smashing it. You know what I mean? If I just take a quick look at what the games website says here, and while I do, I also want to point out the fact that more and more people finished this workout than they did in 2016. Right?
I bet
So that's also to be something to be thought about as well. Is the fact that just the sheer number of people, did better. Anyway, so Sarah Sigmundsdottir won it in 15:20. Oh, excuse me, 19.2. I apologize. Brooke Haas, 14:01. Yeah, Brooke Wells, 14:20. Let me look at the men's side. Is Rich Froning won it at 15:58, which is crazy because, obviously Rich is a very high level athlete, but he beat Vellner and he beat Fraser on this workout.
Wow.
That's serious. That's awesome. That's good for him, man. That makes me fired up to see if Rich actually has some ability to do this. Another cool, notable standout here was Cody Anderson, who did it in 18:19, and Cody's under 170 pounds. So that's awesome.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
I know, right? And then, that's just so cool to see. So, this wasn't necessarily a big guys workout. And when you look at this workout, you can't really call it a big guys workout, even though they're bigger weights. I really see this workout as like, whoever does well at this workout is probably overall super, super, super fit for the sport. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think that this is an excellent test because you can't be too much on either extreme. Really strong, but a little bit bigger. You're going to get punished on the toes to bar. for sure. And I guess suppose the double unders a little bit more, and then little and light, those weights are tough to handle unless you're Cody Anderson.
Yeah, right. Where basically you're just practicing weightlifting most of the year, and then you are naturally pretty good at gymnastics and have good capacity.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a very, very special workout, and I really like this test as a way to determine some of the fittest people in the world, because there's no real outliers on this workout. You have to have super good gymnastics and be efficient there. You have to have a good gas tank because it is a 15-minute plus workout. You have to be super strong. The only component is like technical barbell proficiency isn't as rewarded, just because it's cleans. So you just pull and get under it and stand up with it with just ox legs. So you don't have to be super precise in terms of that movement, but overall, I think it's just a fantastic test. I really do like this tester.
Yeah.
I did it myself, Scotty. I did not do it in 2016 because I was walking across the state of Florida, or the length of state of Florida, but I tried it and I got 8 reps at the 225-pound bar. So I was 3 reps shy of finishing, which was probably about a minute of work. So if I were to do it again, maybe I'd come close to finishing, but there was no way I would be able to do the 275 bar. So overall, where I'm at, and I don't think I would ever be able to do the 275 bar. So regardless, it's a fun workout for me. It's nice to get some heavy cleans in and some clean up, some technique, that kind of stuff. So it was fun. But
Cool.
the question from here, Scott, did you have anybody doing it in your gym, Scott?
Yeah, I have a few. Yeah.
How did it look in person?
It looked fun. I mean, it was one I wish I was sort of in CrossFit shape again to take on a little bit, but I'm not doing any toes to bar with my still rehabbing shoulder anytime soon. So we had a master's guy, 60 plus, do it.
Oh, cool.
Their weights are not that much lighter. And then had a handful of other guys. We had one, some scaled performances were pretty cool. Some people that finished it scaled where their max was barely more than 185, which was the last bar, and they got through all of them. And that was actually the coolest moment from this workout.
That's really cool,
because that was ended up being a pretty good dose if you were able to do it all scaled and could get it done under the cap.
Yep. And I was actually planning on doing this as scaled, but I built up to a heavy clean. I was like, all right, I'll be able to take a crack at this, because I didn't even think I'd be able to finish the 185 bar, but I was like, oh, all right, cool. So I'll be able to do some 225s, and I kind of just did it like that. If I did it with a scaled weight, it would have crushed my life. Like just, so much more volume and squatting and that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, the volume, yeah. Oh, yeah, it did not even look remotely easy.
No, not at all. It's just like, literally, it's just like a squat clean workout where you're just dying. But so now that we kind of know what the workout is, Scott, I think what our trend has been, and we did last week, is if we knew that 6 months ago, we knew this workout was coming, how would you train the athlete to excel at this workout? What are your first thoughts?
Capacity, yeah.
Okay, so what are
go ahead.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on initial assessment? What things you would definitely take a look at, and what we would need to hit throughout this to train for this workout?
Yeah, I mean, assessing. So I think we'd look at obviously are they strong enough? This is the first obvious one. What is their max clean? And then proficiency at toes to bar and double unders. And then as far as the training block, it's going to have to be rather consistent practice at building volume and repeatability on those two skills. Well, with the clean, then building some absolute strength, and then into kind of CP battery. A good assessment can be, whether it's AMRAP at a heavy percentage of your max. So one I've always used, I think this came first from the OPEX crew, but I could be wrong. Build to a max. Typically we don't have power clean, but we could change it up for squat clean because we're going specific and on a time constraint, say 8. You have a time period like 8 minutes, I think it is, where you try to AMRAP it. Did I lose you? Where did Sean go? There you are.
Go ahead, Scott.
Is that good? Okay. Well, I'm sure we can hear me. Yeah. So then that would give an idea of, and see, how much work and where we're at, and it's kind of a reassessment.
Yep. So obviously we're taking a look at the barbell component then, and so say let's just give an example of a female athlete whose max clean ends up being 205.
Okay, so
you have 6 months. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, so that's a good place to work with, because she at least in a fresh condition can do the final weight.
And that's why I said that, because I'm like, if they're at 175, we're doing it. You know how you get better is just do strength training for the next 2-3 years until you get to the prerequisite, right?
Right. Yeah. If you have enough time, you're just going to strength train until you have the requisite strength to do the task at hand. But if you can do the 205 already fresh, then we still need some strength training, because it'd be, I don't know, I feel like you would need at least 10% above that, maybe less for a female, because they can usually repeat high percentage of their maxes a little more easily than men. And then building capacity, because that bar is going to feel like 225, not 205 once you get to it.
Yep.
So probably pure strength work to start and just push that up. And
yep. Something to consider also, Scott, would be the fact that, like, when we're already at the prerequisite strength, obviously we'd have to be under fatigue. But here's the thing is, like, do we need, and again, this is obviously dependent upon where we are in these training cycles, is do we need tons of touches to get her stronger?
Oh,
right?
Probably not. Yeah.
Like, we wouldn't need lots of like high percentage work to necessarily get her stronger. It's more of like getting them used to breathing and moving weights.
Mm-hmm.
You know, CP
capacity,
learning how to
CP
breathe
battery, and recover. Yep.
Almost in like aerobic settings where you also have to do those reps, because that ends up being that workout. I think I, in the past, have tended to just keep it very CP battery based only. And that kind of just has only a certain amount of stimulus, because you're not getting the complexities of what the sport are, which are then you got to do double unders, then you got to do toes to bar, then you got to do a clean. Whereas most of the work I would do to train CP capacity would be like, all right, every 20 seconds do a clean. But the complexities are much more difficult. Now, in the beginning, I think that's probably appropriate, because we're training a skill, and then we actually have to get to something called contractions, right? So we're training something entirely different.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you has to be done kind of in the sports setting, and you have to be used to doing it in that setting before it's useful. Yeah, and that's I think one mistake I made in the past. We typically do CP sessions, and they're just not the same. I have a few different versions, from doing cyclic work, and then for a certain amount of time, and then a certain number of heavy repetitions done singly. But then it can be even more sport specific, where you do have things like you're doing double unders or burpees or something before you then do a heavy set of clean snatches or whatever.
Yep. And this type of workout also makes it so you can't just go slow on the other stuff either, because overall, if you want to be able to complete this workout, you're going to need time, because there is a time constraint in that first one. But the second thing is that the more time you have during the, like, let's say the clean portion, the more time you have to actually do the cleans and recover between singles, let's say. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the ability to do toes to bar? Let's just start there. So what would be an initial assessment there?
Definitely like an assessment of how many one is able to do. Either you could look at it two ways, in two separate sessions. Like, what can someone do as a max unbroken set currently, and then like how long and how does it have to be fractioned if we give a task, say 100 toes to bar for time or something like that. So you can kind of see where to start for repeatability or density work. If you want to train that strictly, you break it down to a certain percentage of their max, repeat to a certain rest, and either make the reps go up from week to week, or you can reduce the break between the sets. So maybe sets of 15 and the rest shrinks. That would be a way to improve that skill.
I like that. How about gymnastics under fatigue?
And that one you could do similar capacity to CP training. You could do something cyclic, and then go straight into a big set of gymnastics movement needed.
Yeah.
Or you could build it as where you have a circuit where you have to do a couple of things and then into it, where first couple of things are more or less priming, and your real goal is improving the toes to bar.
Yep. I was talking to Ian Kaplan, who actually just did a mentorship for about a week down up at OPEX in Scottsdale, working with James Fitzgerald. And one of the biggest retests that they do for athletes there, especially female athletes, is like an AMRAP for 3 minutes of NATE, rest a certain amount of time, and then repeat for multiple sets. Mm-hmm. And they see what their performance is relative from set to set, because it is a fairly good gymnastics test, but it also has that CP battery component with the heavy kettlebell swings in there as well.
Right.
Yeah. And it's relatively difficult. Like, I've done NATE, it's terrible. Like right away, you're like, oh shit, this sucks, because it's really hard to fraction the workout and you're just going. So it's very high neuromuscular demand. It's lots of breathing. It's terrible, because you also think in your head, you're like, I can do this every minute on the minute, or I can do like around a minute. The only thing that's stopping me is the fact that I have localized muscular fatigue. My brain hurts and my heart's going to explode.
Yeah. Oh, that's a pretty brilliant one.
Yeah.
You could cover a lot of bases at once there. So it's
exactly
3 minute AMRAP and rest and repeat and watch what.
Yeah, watch how long you last,
and
watch what you can actually do, and it's also a good way to see what people's natural pacing ability looks like, how they know their engine, and that kind of stuff. So I think doing some similar test for the gymnastics components of the workout. Let's say it's toes to bar and double unders. Maybe it's an AMRAP of toes to bar and double unders, and like for 3 minutes, and then it's a rest, and then you repeat and see how long you can actually last. And that's maybe an objective way to kind of test those things over time, so you can see without having to do the entire workout over and over again. You just kind of see what those little things are looking like. Okay, cool, that's going in the right direction, and we don't really lose too much in the testing component of it.
Right. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, you can always build, if this was actually true and we knew this workout 6 months ahead of time, you could build some very specific scenarios of testing and retesting, and that would be a perfect one. You could kind of take care of the pairing there, and then clean is separate, and then later they'd be brought together.
Exactly. I think it'd be really cool. But I think that's I would say that would be a really cool way of going about it. And again, I like this because almost it becomes, we're starting to make a training program. Let's say it's we're past the off season where we're working on components of natural. They're just getting them better athletes and getting structurally balanced and working on some of those components. Now we're looking at like, okay, this is what an off-season training program would look like for a sport of fitness athlete. So I think we're going in the right direction here, Scotty. You got anything else for today?
Predictions for
tonight,
we have to.
I guess. Okay, tonight we have this is being filmed on Thursday or recorded on Thursday, so we have our predictions. We got rid of the repeat workout.
Yeah,
we got rid of cleans, we got rid of toes to bar, and we got rid of double unders. We are left with things like deadlifts, handstand walking, dumbbell movements, thrusters. We've
pull-ups of some form.
Maybe some kind of muscle-up workout. Scott, you got to give me one movement that's guaranteed to be in this week. What do you got?
I'm definitely going muscle up this week.
Right.
I don't know if it's bar or ring, but I'm going to go with the muscle up.
Round of applause for Scotty. Scotty, you took the muscle up from me this week, so I'm going to go with last year they incorporated overhead squats. I like that they did, and I think they're going to bring it back again. So I'm going to go overhead squat this week.
Okay.
All right. And we will find out.
Might get there has been a muscle up and overhead squat workout. If I remember
there
back
has.
in the old days. I don't remember.
That's precisely. Right. It was burpees over the bar, overhead squats, and muscle ups, and then it went back again. So I remember that
the
workout.
weights were odd, right? It was like 30 overhead squats at like 120 or something.
Yeah, 120, 125. It wasn't a 135 bar. I remember it being.
Yeah, it was an unusual weight.
Yeah, it was really, really actually. I would love to go back and just crush that workout now, because like I barely had muscle ups and couldn't do overhead squats then. But all right, I like it, Scott. I like it. And we will obviously see tonight what the workout will be.
Yeah.
So we'll know on Monday, and we'll break it down on Monday of similar ideas and that kind of stuff for next week. But if we need to reach you, Scott, how can we get out to you?
I'm Scott Hagnes, Scott at CrossFitPortland.com.
And I'm Sean LaFlock. You can get me at Sean at CrossFitDelrabeach.com. Guys, please subscribe to the podcast, rate and review. We're trying to grow the podcast as best as possible. This is the Fitness, Wellness, and Longevity Podcast. Scott, talk to you next week, buddy.
Talk to you next week.
Later, dude.
All right, later.
Bye-bye.